Hi, True Crime Grapevine fans. It's me, Patty Lee. It is Friday, September 1st. Woohoo! Made it to September. And right now it's relatively cool here, just in the low 80s. We're going to get hot next week. So, wherever you are, I hope you're doing great. If you're down in Florida and you're in the area that was hit by the hurricane, or in Georgia or South Carolina, I hope you're safe, everybody's okay, and you had minimal damage. All right, so there wasn't a lot. Today is Friday, like I said. There wasn't a lot of true crime coming across the wires. Most people were talking about the trial that's going on for the murder of Dr. Amy Harwick in Hollywood that happened in 2020. She was attacked in her bedroom, fought with defensive wounds, was strangled, was either pushed, or the defense is claiming she just jumped on her own off a third-story balcony. And then later succumbed to those injuries and died. That trial is going on. We talked a little bit about it. The defendant is a man she dated 9 years ago. She saw him a month prior to when he unalived her, allegedly. It's the testimony the last couple of days has been her friends about the incident where he saw her, and apparently corrections corner, she wasn't there she was there being a participant getting an award at this award ceremony. He was a photographer. She was ready to walk the red carpet with his friend. He, as a photographer, starts calling her, witch, but with a B. You ruined my life. Freaks out. She does, to settle down the situation, it's a public thing, goes and speaks with him. She's a doctor, has a doctorate in sexuality and also a background in psychology, so she tries to talk with him. And what do we know about DV stuff? You can't talk to these people. It's never enough. So one of the things that came up in court today, that the lawyer, Peter Tragos, was talking about, highly recommend you go watch his live that was uploaded today. And he was saying how the defense is basically saying, look, this guy was madly in love with her. He just wanted to, it was an accident. He just wanted to talk to her. You know how you get. And she wasn't willing to talk to him. And he just needed to talk to her. And Peter said, as I'm sure all of you are thinking of, that's no excuse to break into somebody's house, throttle them, and then pitch them over or chase them over a balcony. Oh, I really needed to talk to them. If she would have just talked to him more, I mean, the person who spoke, her friend who was with her on that red carpet the month before she was attacked, he said she spoke with him right then to settle him down, met with him after, but in a public place while people were walking out, but talked to him like another 45 hour. And then that's when she said, so I hear what you're saying, but I really don't want you to contact me. And he just couldn't leave it alone. So the trial is sort of bringing out more specific evidence, and none of it looks good. And the defense of, if only he just wanted to talk to her, doesn't make a lot of sense, because remember, as we said before, we were talking about that vial of liquid nicotine enough to kill somebody. There was a vial found of it at his house, and he had brought a vial with him to her house. The defense is, in the opening statements, has made a claim insinuating that perhaps he was going to use that on himself. And as Peter Tragos brought up, and I'm sure many of you are thinking, which is, okay, so he just wanted to talk to her. He had to talk to her. So he sneaks into her house before she has time to get in. He's in there hiding. The roommate heard noises, didn't know what they were, went back to sleep. That was earlier in the evening. So basically, as soon as he was done speaking, as soon as he knew maybe she had gone somewhere, that was the night she had gone out on Valentine's Day, if you remember, with her friends to a burlesque show. So was he stalking her and knew exactly where she was? But he got into her house while she was gone. She comes in, goes into her bedroom. That's when the situation happens after she hangs up on the phone with whomever she was speaking to. I just wanted to speak to her, doesn't really do it. And it's not her fault, which is what the defense makes it sound like. Well, he just wanted to talk to her and she went and talked to him. He had no other recourse. Well, then why did he bring that vial of nicotine that had a deadly thing? And they're saying like, well, because he was going to kill himself what in front of her, which that is a very sort of sadistic thing to do, make somebody watch you die. Or more realistically, do you think he was going to maybe try to, maybe he was going to inject her, couldn't get a hold of her, it got knocked out of his hand, they fought. I'm thinking it was more of something like that. But regardless, we're going to hear more. We haven't heard anything from the defense. So this is all allegedly. But so far in the prosecution side, after opening statements, this looks like an open and shut case. California no longer has the death penalty. He would get life in prison. This is not just a murder charge, but it's an enhanced charge. And because he was lying in wait for her. All right. And that's all that anybody's really talking about crime wise on the interwebs. I'm sure probably right as I'm speaking, there'll be something else, but we don't have a lot of really active things going on right now. We're waiting for more things to get through the court process. Again, waiting on the Kohlberger decision to see what the judge says. So in the meantime, I thought I'd show you some of the books. Some I'm going to be reading, and then I'll show you a book I read. So in case you're a reader, and I think these will all look backwards on the screen, but I have two books here, and I would like to recommend these authors. One is Kathy Reich. She is the creator of Temperance Brennan, the character, the anthropological psychologist, forensic scientist, Bones. If you've seen the show Bones, they're made from these books. So, and I've read a lot of her different novels about Temperance Brennan. She herself, I believe, was an ME. And if you really want to learn forensics and you don't want to read a textbook, these sort of fictional novels, I highly recommend them. I like her stories. This one actually, I think, was used as a jumping off point of one of the Bones TV show, because it's about Temperance Brennan being in Guatemala, looking at a mass gravesite from a Guatemala, looking at a mass gravesite from a civil war that had happened there. And I think I remember that same sort of scenario. But anyways, when you read about books, it's way different, and they can get into detail about the actual processes. And when someone's been a coroner, that you're gonna know a lot more and get the real scoop, like we talked about the other night, the Bill Cannon on Police Off the Cuff had Jim Clemente and Bobby some Cocone, and they were both investigators. One was an FBI, one was a New York City cop, and they helped be advisors on Criminal Minds and really say, like, no, this is how this would go down. Really, this is how cops talk. This is how this would happen. The other one is by another woman who is a medical examiner. I don't know if you know Patricia Cornwell, and I've been reading her books forever, but this one's called Port Mortuary, and it's a Scarpetti novel. That's her main character, and really well done. Again, you get a lot of information about forensics. The last book I read about her, I learned all about, what were they talking about? It might have been geofencing. These people not only have a background in forensics, but then they research more about what's currently going on and detective stuff. And I think if you're interested in true crime, Two great authors. All right. Another, boy, it's really loud outside. I don't know if you can hear it because it's Friday night and I live close enough to a local high school that I can always hear when the games are going, and they're having stuff going on right now. But anyways, Heather Graham is an author that writes pretty prolifically. She writes about New Orleans a lot. It's sort of paranormal. It always has a romance in it. In fact, if you want to look for Heather Graham books, you have to look in the romance section. They're not in the mystery section, but they are mysteries. And they do involve usually, I mean, they always involve a crime. And this is a series called the Blackbird Trilogy. So I have volume 1 and volume 2, Whispers at Dusk, Secrets in the Dark by Heather Graham. Heather Graham, um, for as prolific of a writer as she is, it's not the same thing every time. And it's always really kind of interesting. And I do like the, you might call it magical realism, true crime. Magical realism means there's some paranormal aspect, but it's set in a realistic setting. And a lot of times she writes, I didn't really look where these are set, but she writes about, well, this is in Europe. Lots of times her novels are set in, like one was set in Salem, Massachusetts. One was set, a lot of them are set in New Orleans. And I love New Orleans. So, anyways, great author, highly recommend. I'll let you know how the books turn out when I read them. Those are all books. I just started the Kathy Reich one, Grave Secrets. I'll let you know how it goes. I finished this book. It's called A Flicker in the Dark. It is by Stacey Wellingham. It is again a novel. It says it was on the New York Times bestseller list. This book, I found the premise. I mean, it was really interesting. But almost from reading the back of the book, I had an idea what was going on. But it did have a very big twist. The protagonist is a psychologist who deals with childhood's traumas, and actually it's because she had a trauma when she was a child because her father was a serial killer. Sound familiar? If you're following the List case, if you've heard Carrie Rawson, we've spoken about her. And then in her adult life, things are finally settled. She's getting married. She's got a good career. In her town, girls start going missing. And it seems to be very similar to how her dad unalived people, but her dad is incarcerated. Bum, bum, bum. What's going on? The way, I will say, a little gimmicky, but a good book. I think they could make, they could make a motion picture out of it. It's just the, I don't know. I'm trying to, it did that thing at the end where you think it's one person. No, it's another person. And then no, and then bum, bum, bum. It was the one. And it sort of felt a little like you were getting jerked around. I don't know if you've ever read books like that. But was it worth it? Yes. I got it, I believe, at Menards on sale. So I get a lot of my books at Menards or at Ollie's or at thrift stores. Or sometimes I buy them directly, like full price at Barnes and Noble. Not all the time, because, you know, if you read a lot, sometimes it seems ridiculous to pay so much money for them. But we want the authors to stay in business. So anyways, A Flicker in the Dark. It's a thriller. I think it did have moments scary enough in it, if you watch true crime, that you might want to read it with the lights on. So actually, I would say it's if I had 1 to 4 stars, I would give it 2 3/4, maybe a 3. I'm kind of a tough person. All right. So that's all I have for you guys tonight. It's a real quick one. This isn't even probably going to be a walk down your street to let your dog go to the bathroom, because there is not that much crime. The only other thing that was on was a a woman had been found guilty of leaving her disabled daughter in the car for 5 hours. And I didn't even dig into it. I just saw it come across my feed that she was guilty and that her boyfriend had also been found guilty of the same crime. I have no idea when it happened. I don't know how old the daughter was. If you're following the case, she was found guilty by a jury today. So, but I kind of, I forget so much. Thank God I never forgot a child. But people who forget their kids in cars and then go do something for hours, it just kills me sometimes. So I don't know if this was like a younger child. They played up disabled, making it sound like, it was on purpose. And obviously a jury felt it was, because she did go down for murder. So um, if you guys are interested in that case, I really didn't hear about it, wasn't interested in hearing about a child being abused, but there's that. So I will see you guys on Monday. Have a great Labor Day weekend. It's a holiday weekend, so enjoy. Be safe. Stay safe. Keep your head on swivel. Don't go into the woods alone. We don't want any stories about you. Don't drink and go swimming and diving into shallow waters. Go have fun, not too much fun. And I'll see you next week. Bye.